catastrophic. That's why I have announced we will withdraw from the deal before that can ever happen.
Daniel Mitchell, senior fellow at libertarian think tank, the Cato Institute, and joins me from Washington, D.C. Good evening to you. Daniel, what did you think of Donald's speech? It was long in coming. Did we get what we needed?
Well, I'm not sure what we got because it was a confusing mishmash. Some of the things I liked, a big cut in the corporate tax rate to make America more competitive. But on the other hand, the protectionism, that has to worry anybody who cares about the global economy. And even the parts that I liked, like his tax cut, unless there's something on the spending side of the ledger, some plan to control the growth of government, I'm not sure that his tax plan, which is pretty good, can be considered realistic.
Right. So what do you think is the most glaring need then that he needs to add? What is the number one item on the addendum that you think he needs to issue immediately?
I think in terms of overall fiscal policy, if he had some plan to control the growth of government, say some sort of spending cap so that government couldn't grow faster than 2% a year, that would give him a lot of breathing room to get through what is, in general, a pretty decent tax cut. Now, there's nothing, I think, that fixes the protectionism. He either has to decide that he's in favor of the global consensus for more open trade, or he has to decide he wants to be the next Herbert Hoover. And on regulation, okay, it's great to have a moratorium because there's no question we've had a lot of red tape under Obama, but ultimately a moratorium simply freezes you in place. We need to figure out some sensible cost-benefit rules so that we can maybe reduce the burden that's really, I think, stifling entrepreneurship in the U.S. economy.
Yeah, a lot of things that he was talking about along the way didn't make it into this particular speech, did it? I mean, he did talk about new tax deductions for child care costs. I don't know if he talked about the earned income credit, which has been the subject of some conjecture. Weren't there a lot of missing parts here? What about, undoing Obamacare and replacing it with something really, really great? Did we get anything really, really great? I don't think we got anything on that.
We got lots of huge things, but not a lot of details on those proposals. And this, I think, is the challenge of whether you're covering Trump as a journalist or whether you're following him as a policy economist. He has this stream of consciousness approach where he says 50 different things over the course of a week. You can't really figure out which ones he's serious about. And so the fact that some of these things didn't make it in the speech is that, can we read the tea leaves? Can we draw some conclusion? I have no idea.
Okay. Daniel, everything, of course, is relative in light, though. And it's, I mean, these pronouncements or these grand speeches don't exist in a vacuum. So let's lay it alongside what we know so far from Hillary, and I guess we'll know more on Thursday from here. Here's what we know about Hillary so far. She is not the Hillary of 2 years ago. She is not the centrist Hillary. She is not Bubba's Hillary. She is Bernie Sanders' Hillary. She had to agree to everything the Sanderistas wanted to get him to shut up and endorse her and hush all his millennial troops there. So she's tacked left, and then she's had to tack left again. So side by side, does Trump have a better prescription for America than what we know so far from the Clinton camp?
You're exactly right that Hillary is far more to the left than her husband was when he was in the White House, and Bernie Sanders seems to have locked her into a more strident position. And one thing that Trump did very effectively in his speech is he went through, chapter and verse that, median household income is stagnant. There's a, labor force participation is very low. We've had the weakest recovery since the Great Depression. He had a very good indictment of the Obama record, and he pointed out that Hillary just wants more of the same, over $1 trillion of new taxes, more government spending, sort of become Greece, but at 55 miles an hour instead of Bernie Sanders 90 miles an hour. But here's the thing. If you want to do a comparison, do you trust what Trump says on today versus what he's going to say tomorrow? The one thing you can say about Hillary is we see what she is. She's sort of a big government, but in an incremental fashion type of candidate. And Trump is all over the map. And so, I don't know, you throw it all into a hat and mix it up, and what do you pull out?
Oh, boy, if it's confusing a PhD in economics like you, I can't imagine what it's doing to the average American, Dr. Mitchell. But Dr. Mitchell, tell me this. Is there something? I mean, the Clinton camp has lobbed accusations of Trump's trickle-down theory, sort of alluding to the Reagan-Kemp years. Is there really any Reagan-esque economic policy built into what Trump is saying so far? Is there any trickle-down that you see in there? I mean, it doesn't seem like a very Republican budget, historically speaking. Not a budget, a spending plan.
Well, the fact that Trump isn't proposing anything to control the size of government, that's definitely not very Reagan-esque. But his tax plan, you know, Reagan lowered the corporate tax rate. Reagan cut tax rates across the board. Trump is proposing to do those two things. Now, Reagan was starting with taxes way up here and brought them down to here. They've since gone up a bit, and now Trump wants to bring them down a bit. So I'll give him credit for that. But again, what I said earlier in the interview still stands. Without some sort of plan to control government spending, I'm not sure that his tax plan is very realistic. And of course, I suppose we have to confess one more thing. There's still a lot of details we don't know about the plan. And so until those details are released, if they're ever released, it's a bit of a black box. And now, of course, all politicians do that. All politicians have sort of the vague, you know, wonderful-sounding, you know, flag and apple pie type rhetoric and plans ahead of the election. But it really would be nice to see a little bit more detail so we have some idea what he really intends to do if he somehow winds up in the White House.
Okay, and finally, looking forward to Thursday, Daniel. I suppose Hillary, it would be dangerous for her to talk about big government. We've got a lot of spending plans and give us all your money. We're going to spend it because we know better than you do. She's going to harp on the populist themes that do resonate, like prescription drug costs that are spiraling out of control, isn't she?
I assume they are very busy doing all the focus groups and polls and testing what sounds good. But I'm wondering whether or not we're going to see some triangulation, which is the term for what Bill Clinton did, where she'll sort of tack to the center, try to sound pretty reasonable, and therefore make the election simply a referendum on, is this Donald Trump guy a little bit too unusual to be elected and put in the White House. And that certainly seems like a sensible strategy, and we'll have to wait and see. If she does something hardcore left-wing, sort of make America more like Greece at a much faster rate of speed, then I think we're looking at a couple of interesting months until November.
Yeah, you'd have to really wonder about the advice she's getting if she comes out with that one, Daniel. We'll be watching. Thanks for your time, Daniel. Daniel Mitchell, Cato Institute, Washington, D.C.